The CFL Gambling Podcast, 111th Grey Cup preview picks and DFS episode on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Sign up, and when you do, sign up with the promo code TCESGPN. You get a 50% deposit bonus up to $1,000. What are you doing, folks? Hop on over there. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. Start crushing college football and NFL and college hoops with Rhythm. Get your free 7-day trial period today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's RITHMM. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm.
Hey, this is Derek Stevens. I'm the owner of Circa Las Vegas. You're listening to SGPN. Let it ride.
CFL Gambling Podcast. Let that music hit ya. We got the 111th Grey Cup. That's what they say about the CFL Gambling Podcast. It's fantastic. How are you, folks? YouTube.com. Hop on over there, type in CFL Gambling Podcast because we love this stuff, and we love the 111th Grey Cup on deck, with the exception of it being played in a dome. But still, if you're wondering who the hell you're listening to, that's fair. My name is Kobe Swinging Database Dan, a.k.a. Pick Dundee. That's not a pick. This is a pick.
He was raised in the land down under, where a man thinks on his feet, speaks with his fists, and lives by his wits.
When Dundee happened, he was a superstar.
I'm probably drinking too much and celebrating too much and not sleeping. Would have killed a normal man, but no, that's gone. The medical advice I got from that was like being hit by lightning. Pretend it never happened and get on with your life.
Oh, yeah. Undefeated last week was old Pick Dundee. Undefeated. Let's go. Can't believe we're at the end of the road here, though. We're going to crown a champion. I have 2 futures involved, so I'm winning regardless. But I definitely think I'd rather have one team win. Drunken Irishman in the chat saying, is this the last show of the season, or do we get a reaction show? Wait, we should do a reaction show. Crown, give the team the flowers that they deserve. I am joined by my co-host. He is the host of the Old Fashioned Football Podcast, which you should be checking out. Cocktails Football, him and his wife. What could go wrong? Also, check out the UFL Gambling Podcast, which he hosts as well. Give it up for Justin Mark, a.k.a. No Turn J Mark. How are you, brother?
Doing good. Sad, kind of sad that it's the last game of this season, but it's been a great season, you know, kind of reviving the CFL Gambling Podcast with you. It's been a lot of fun. And hoping for more years, obviously. And this offseason is going to be interesting because there are a lot of big name free agents. So I think we're going to see a lot of turnover. We're going to see a lot of big names changing teams, which despite that happening a lot in the NFL now, it's not been as common in the CFL where they all kind of hit at once. And you're going to see a lot of that. And shout out to Drunken Irishman. That Chad Kelly injury almost made me puke, but karma is a bitch. I cannot tell you how many texts, DMs I got from people going, either asking if it made me happy, which I never like see anybody get injured, even if they are a piece of shit. So no, it didn't really make me happy.
I don't know, buddy.
And B, if I felt like I was personally responsible for all the times I said fuck Chad Kelly for his leg getting fucked. I guess if you want to blame me, that's fine. Blame me. I'll take the blame. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. The adrenaline that is going through a person, because as soon as I saw it, I was sitting next to my wife, Miranda, and I said, he just broke his leg. That had to be that front bone. And I asked her, that's the tibia, the fibula? What is that?
Yeah, and, I was getting those confused.
But it's the tibia. And I said, that's what just broke. You can tell. But he tried to get up. He didn't even know, apparently, because the adrenaline was pumping. And then watching him slowly sit back down trying to hold his leg together with his fucking sock was pretty gross.
Yeah, that was a pretty foul injury, and I know you were secretly cheering. And I think actually, when you went and saw that voodoo specialist, that's a new title, by the way, voodoo specialist. But you went and saw that voodoo specialist to wish terrible things for Chad Kelly. It came, a lot of people are out there. I lived by Venice Beach for a long time, and there's a lot of bullshit out there. You get your palm read, all that stuff. I spent time working at the Santa Monica homeless shelter, and I happened to connect the dots that one of the people reading your palm happened to also work also would come into the homeless shelter. And I thought, nice angle, right? And but there's some real ones out there, and you went to one. You put this voodoo on Chad Kelly, and damn if it didn't come true.
Yeah,
and now
watch
you
out,
get
Luis Perez.
That's true. Subscribe to the UFL Gambling Podcast. Luis Perez, please, if you're out there on planet Earth, I'd stay in the house today. Yeah, I mean, so let's recap for a second here, because I just want to brag about I tried to warn you.
You did.
That there was some phonies out there, and we knew Saskatchewan was phony. Winnipeg just cruised. I'll start with that one. 38-22. This thing was over after the first quarter. It was 14-3, and I was like, they don't have enough to come back from that. I mean, Winnipeg is just on another level right now. I even think the fact that game in Vancouver actually kind of helps them, even though you could argue that the Argos could benefit from playing in a dome better than the Bombers. But I mean, they had 495 yards of offense. The Saskatchewan's 283. They rushed for 194 yards. I mean, it was just a great. They even won the turnover battle 3-2. It was just a dominating performance, and Caleros. I feel like Lawler had a gigantic game with all those touchdowns. But your thoughts on that outcome there? Caleros threw for over 300 yards.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like Saskatchewan was kind of playing with house money, right? I mean, they had started really well, and then their season was very up and down. They kind of snuck in. They won the first round, but going up against Winnipeg, which we have talked since at least mid-season, is kind of feeling like this team of destiny. They were able to turn it around and everything, and got that winning DNA. It just felt like Saskatchewan should be happy to be in this game, but didn't have a chance of winning it. And you never want to feel that as a team, but it certainly looked like it. I mean, they didn't look like they even believed they could win that game, unfortunately for them. So yeah, I mean, an impressive performance by Winnipeg. Was happy to see, you get that bye, being able to keep momentum going, especially going into the Grey Cup. So it was nice to see them keep that momentum going, and for Zach Claros to show out like he did.
Yeah, it was a good year for the Rough Riders, man. In defeat, they got Corey Mace has, I thought, instantly established a winning culture. I know, you look at the season, you say 9-8-1, but still, I do think there's a different culture there due to Corey Mace, and if they can build on that, who knows? I mean, maybe they could be in this position, because Winnipeg, we've touched on this all season. They're long in the tooth.
Yeah.
They're old.
Well, I think 4 weeks in a row, Saskatchewan lost by less than a touchdown, whether it was in overtime or last minute stuff. So,
or robbed by the referees.
Right. So, I mean, that doesn't take a lot to turn around, right? So if you look on building onto that, they only won 9 games. Well, it could have been 13.
Yeah. Yeah. It very well could have been 12, 13 games. And he's just year one establishing his culture, and I think they responded well to it. So I think if you're a Rough Riders fan, you're thinking, hey, the future is ours. And for the Bombers, I mean, all year, this one might be, if they win the 111th Grey Cup, it might be the most impressive of all of them to me, because they just all year. I mean, how many, we could go back and play like 6 episodes, 7 episodes, maybe even 8 episodes of us saying, well, they're just not right this year. They just don't have it.
Yeah.
And then they hit that switch. Yeah.
I think it was week 3 or 4. I had them on the bottom of my power rankings, and I said, I'm not necessarily thinking they're the worst team in the league, but you expect so much more from them, and they are just letting down and losing these games that they shouldn't, that I have them ranked that low. And yeah, they completely turned it around from the bad offensive line play to Claros looking like he couldn't make the throws anymore to obviously having a day like he did last week.
Yeah. And it just speaks volumes to the culture that they've built. Just championship pedigree, and that's what happens when you have a team in a home environment like they do. Yeah, okay, that was game 1. Shout out to the Bombers, they're back. I know our boy Robert Martin has got to be super. He's probably still doing Jaeger bombs on the street corners, just after that. After knowing that they're going back to the Grey Cup, the city of Vancouver needs to watch out, because when Robert Martin's coming, he's coming for you, folks. In the other game, this is the one where Pick Dundee just, I feel like got it done here. The Argos, despite being outgained by almost 100 yards. You can't turn the ball over 5 times, and that's this is revenge from a year ago. The Alouettes, 5 turnovers, but won the yardage. But this is why the yardage can be diluted some. If your defense is making big time turnovers, then it was just a perfect game in that regard for the Argos. Now, obviously, you had the Chad Kelly injury. I don't even honestly, like, I know we like to, and DeMonte Coxey came through for me on the DFS front for 105 yards, but I don't even think it was more about the Argos offense. I think it was the Argos defense that was the reason why they got it done. They beat the Alouettes 30-28. Alouettes tried to storm back, scoring 12 in the 4th. It was 21-16 at the half. At the end of the 3rd, it was 27-16. So from wire to wire, really, the Argos won the game there, and Ryan Dinwiddie has the Argonauts back in the Grey Cup. Your thoughts on this game, and you can also talk about the waiver wire and what went on here.
Yeah. So thoughts on the game real quick. I go back and forth on whether Dinwiddie's an actually good coach. I think he's a really good defensive coach, but they sealed that game by doing what? Running the ball. If they had ran the ball consistently the whole year, I feel like they would have locked the number 1 seed. But as soon as Chad Kelly came back, they kind of got away from running the ball. But you saw him seal that game with Kadeem Carey pulling off some huge runs. And that's what he can do with behind that offensive line. And the fact that they didn't run him as often, it's like, what are you doing? I get that you have a strong arm quarterback. Who cares? Let your strong arm quarterback matter when you're behind or trying to catch up or whatever. But in a regular game where you're down only by a touchdown or whatever it is, run the fucking ball. Like, that was bizarre to me, but their defense did play very well. Chad Kelly had, I think, 2 interceptions pretty early, and I'm rubbing my hands going, here we go again. It's just like last year when he threw 4 interceptions, they got blown out. Didn't go that way. More mistakes made on Montreal's part. And like you said, the yardage didn't matter because Toronto could play with short fields pretty much all day. The return game was great. The defense was great, and they relied on that. Chad Kelly, obviously, he's out 6 to 9 months at least. There's been some talks, at his age, can he come back from that injury? We've seen plenty of quarterbacks do it before, but
he's already pushing the narrative. He's already like, look, his career's done. Might as well.
I didn't start that narrative, but I'll buy into it.
Show him where the graveyard is. All right, let's put him out of his misery.
But they so he's on injured reserve. They bring in this guy. Let me lean the right way. This guy right here. They bring Brian Scott back for depth. Obviously he's not going to make the start. Been away from the team, but they bring him in for depth. In case something happens,
chance to get a ring.
Yeah, and that's cool to me because I mean that's a guy that was on their roster all year last year and a guy that was on it for half this year. So the fact that he gets to come back and gets a chance to get a ring is pretty cool.
Yeah, and I know it might seem while J Mark I know is very happy for putting the voodoo on Chad Kelly. I look, here's my thing. It's like that was a nasty injury, but okay. Like it's football. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like he's still the highest paid player in the CFL. I'm not going to lose any sleep over this. But you know what I mean? Like, okay. Shit happens. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I just went to Starbucks. I saw a big car crash on the fucking road. So excuse me if I don't lose any sleep over this injury. But I will wish him the best though. Unlike J Mark, I will wish him the best. All right. And look, the best part about breaking your leg, they're gonna pump you with painkillers. All right. And then you'll have a lot of time to go around those dive bars in Toronto, have a good old time. No, but seriously, wishing the best for Chad Kelly. Look,
the best part to me was seeing it on like the social medias and watch people go back and forth on why his teammates didn't come over to try to help him. Some were like, well, what are they going to do? And others were like, well, that's because he's a piece of shit. Why would they help him? And it was just funny watching people go back and forth.
Yeah, don't look too far into it. The internet is as much as I love it, it provides my livelihood. It can be the dumbest fucking place on the face of the planet for, just about everything.
I mean, yeah, he's a piece of shit, but to the other side's point, what are the teammates supposed to do? You can see that his leg is broken. You can see he's in pain. What are they going to do? Carry him off the field? No,
I like this idea though. I like this idea of at all times you play 11 players, but one of them's a doctor.
Right.
So it's like war, right? It's like you got one guy that's it's like we're radio communications. That's what we should do too. One player should be sitting there, radio communications. All right. But
make football more like war. I like it.
Yeah. I mean, look, they've done it. They've done everything to make it not like war, with the way they protect the quarterback and all this bullshit. But yeah, I mean, look, wish them the best. Don't read the internet. They're fucking stupid, including myself. Folks, look, what I tell you, the CFL Gambling Podcast. Well, first off, thanks for listening to the CFL Gambling Podcast. And we are part of the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. And if you haven't downloaded the SGPN app, well, you are missing out. The SGPN app gives you access to all of our podcasts on the network and our picks page, all in one convenient place. Yes, the app. Plus, just like all of our other content, the app is completely free to download. Type in SGPN in your App Store or Google Play Store and download it today. And don't forget, as always, folks, to let it ride. We're also brought to you by mybookie.ag. Yes, SGPN. Way back in the day, we started out with MyBookie, and now we're back. This is like fucking Terminator 2. Much better than the first one. Check out the new and improved website. It's great on mobile. Plus props for every game. And the live dealer casino is always fun. They got new early cash out options. Head over to mybookie.ag, promo code SGPN for 100% deposit match up to $1,000 plus a $10 casino chip. East Carolina minus the points tonight at H.A. Chapman Stadium in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Do it. That's mybookie.ag, promo code TCE. I'm sorry. That's mybookie.ag, promo code SGPN. All right, we are back. Ready to roll. I mean, as much as I wish we had a huge tits parlay available, I guess we can try to give one because we've been cashing with our Pam Anderson huge tits parlays all season. And, we will get to one on the fly. It'll be hard to do, but afraid to give out that huge tits parlay. And some people do stand in that darkness, but anything else you want to note before we talk about this game?
The Brian Scott thing was interesting to me. I mean, it makes sense because he knows their offense, But you got to remember, he also had a cup of coffee with Winnipeg 2-3 weeks ago. So
He's a spy.
He's a spy. He knows that offense. He probably knows a little bit about their game planning. Whether he was on the team long or not, that's long enough to sit in those meetings, to go through the playbook, all that. So that's kind of an interesting move just from that angle. Not just because he obviously knows your offense and can step in if he needs to, but the fact that he knows the enemy. So I thought that was interesting from both sides there.
Yeah, I would agree. I think every Bomber fan is probably saying something to the effect of this when they saw him get signed.
The fuck is that?
But yeah, it's a very good point though. Very good point you just brought up. So the 111th Grey Cup, just for a second, just the fact that, this event has been happening for so long. A lot of people don't realize how long, your average person thinks like the NFL, like football was created by the NFL. It was not. It was created with college football, and then you had the birth of the the Grey Cup. Actually, I don't think it was actually titled the CFL at the time, but this awesome thing, the Grey Cup, has been happening since 1909. The Toronto Varsity Blues won the first ever game back in 1909. But to give you an idea, folks, the Super Bowl didn't start until 1967. So honor a little bit of its history. I hear so many stupid people that are just like, you watch CFL? Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Know a little bit about your history. I think it's fantastic that this thing carries on. There's talk. Where are you at with CFL expansion? There's been rumblings that maybe they would be expanding. Where are you at with CFL expansion?
Yeah, I would love to see even just if it's one additional team, so there's an even amount in the conferences. I think that would be a big play for the CFL. I know there's been talks about if the UFL does disband, can they grab one of those locations anyways and have an American CFL team? And on one side, I'm like, yeah, I like that as long as you keep it traditional CFL. Don't try to be like American football. But on the other side, I mean, if you have an American team, it opens up so many more eyes probably to the CFL. So I do like that idea. But I also think there's got to be a lot of places in Canada where you could expand. So even if just to start, it's one team to make even conferences, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I saw I think 1.4 million people watched that Toronto Montreal game. Fantastic number for them. Yeah. I would like both. I think you can expand into Canada, and maybe I'm just over ambitious here. I grew up, so part of why I love the CFL. Now I started watching the CFL as a kid in the 80s. The minute that thing went to TV, like late 80s, right? And then I really dove into it with the Doug Flutie era, early 90s, and then Baltimore got a team, and I grew up in Washington D.C., so the Stallions got a team, and I just watched every game. It was fantastic with Mike Pringle and Tracy Ham and everything, Robert Clark, and that's where I had my own team then. Before I was like, I don't know where the hell Saskatchewan is. But it was fun just because it was like a mystery to us, like me and my brothers. But having your own team is cool. And I wish they would have kept that franchise there. I know they'd say like, oh, well, the Ravens came. I still think that would have worked. Like, I still think it would have worked, but maybe I'm naive. So I would still like them to venture into America. I don't understand. A Drunken Irishman brings up a good point. I think North Dakota, I think you have to look for the off beaten path if you're going to go through America. So a place like that, maybe Montana, maybe, Boise, Idaho, or something like that. Salt Lake City or something. Yeah.
If the UFL doesn't last, they're stupid not to consider St. Louis with the way we've seen fans show up in St. Louis.
True.
I know it's not north. That's more, Midwestern, but just the way the fans show up and how hungry they are for football, one of these professional leagues have to be in St. Louis if UFL were to go away.
Yeah. Yeah. But I do think there's some spots in Canada that make sense, so, but I would kind of like both personally. I even think Portland would work.
Yeah.
Look at like what they've done with their soccer, their soccer team. I think they might be open for that. All right, let's get to this game because I'm kind of fascinated by this. You have Toronto taking on Winnipeg in Vancouver, British Columbia. Great city if you've never been. Unfortunately, played in the dome. I mean, all season you I just get next year. I'm so excited it's not in the dome. Winnipeg's laying 9. Obviously, they're fans. It's an easier commute from Winnipeg to Vancouver than Toronto, but I bet you Toronto probably has more flights. If I had to bet, the over under set at 51. If you do like Arbuckle and the Argos, they're plus 340 on the money line. Winnipeg is minus 440 on the money line. Let's talk about that for a second. How big of a story is it, the quarterback position and just the Argos in general? You've seen them all year, kind of in this taboo of quarterbacks. I want to say, and I should have done my homework on this. I want to say we've had 4 different quarterbacks play for the Argos this year, right? Nick Arbuckle probably has the most reps besides Chad Kelly. But how many games did Brian Scott get in there?
He was only in 1. It was when they were down to Montreal by quite a bit. He came in, went 5 for 5, 70-some yards and a touchdown. Cam Dukes started this season for them.
That's what I'm saying. I know Cam Dukes. Yeah. I was going to, but it might be maybe a 5th quarterback too, right? Didn't they have the veteran come in for like a game? Did they have one more? I thought they might have had one more veteran come in.
I think it was just those 4.
Okay. So Arbuckle's getting the start. You still got Cam Dukes on the roster, right? What are we looking at here? Like, how big of a moment is this for Nick Arbuckle? And could he? But you win the Grey Cup here. Could there be a chance that they just move on from Chad Kelly?
I mean, yeah, absolutely. Especially given that who knows what happens with his rehab. I mean, this CFL is a long season. It has a shorter turnaround in between seasons. So yeah, I think absolutely they could, or this could be Nick Arbuckle's audition for his next team. I mean, Calgary, I got to imagine they're going to be looking for a different quarterback option. So he wins the Grey Cup, but maybe they say, hey, we need that guy.
And this guy's career, he's bounced around. This is his second stint, I believe, with the Argos. He's bounced around. I remember him in college with Georgia State, but he was with the Stampeders, I think, where he had one of his biggest seasons, if memory serves me correct. Then he was with the Red Blacks, but he never got on the field. He was with the Eskimos, never got on the field. Well, I think he actually got on the field the second time with the Eskimos, but he's bounced around. It kind of reminds me of like a Kurt Warner situation in the NFL, or when in '99 when the Rams won it, or some of these other veterans. How about Doug Williams with the Redskins in '87 when he had already played in the USFL, and prior to that with the Tampa Bay Bucks, and it was hard to get a gig. Or maybe Jake Delhomme, even though he didn't win it against Brady. It just seems like you had this journeyman quarterback. And now he's given this ultimate opportunity to win a championship. You look at his stats for the season. He's only thrown for 799 yards, 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, but now he's thrown into this spot where he could be a gigantic part of CFL history. What do you make of just, you think he finishes the game? You think, is the moment going to be too big for him, or, just the overall spot is fascinating to me. I love it when you get to a spot and now you're a 9-point dog. You have a chance though to be a legend, and you've been this journeyman quarterback. That sports give you opportunities like this that you don't really see. And it's so it's so great, whether it's, what doesn't matter the sport, but specifically the quarterback position in football, I feel like is one that, you know, the eyes center around that more than maybe like other sports where basketball, oh, they got this guy, he's a backup coming at the small forward spot. But what do you make of this whole thing? Because I think it's fascinating. I think it's going to be one of the biggest storylines into the game.
Yeah, absolutely. Rod in the chat saying he's had a lot of chances, never been able to stick. Shout out to Rod. Go check out the NASCAR Gambling Podcast.
Hell yeah.
I tweeted it out on Monday, but both of them are veterans. So if you don't listen, you're basically saying you hate veterans. Yeah, it is interesting.
Not veterans of the CFL, veterans.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Of America.
Not like Arbuckle. He's talking about a veteran of like the Veterans Day was Monday.
Yes.
And Rod Villagomez, hell of a good guy, protecting our freedoms while we sit over here and eat fucking cheeseburgers and talk shit. You know what I mean? I'm serious. Those are the real ones.
Yeah.
Not the people eating cheeseburgers like me. But anyway, continue.
Perfect world for me. Arbuckle is shit the first half, and they bring in Brian Scott, and he lights the world on fire. I'd like that for Brian, obviously. But
wouldn't they bring in Dukes, though? Wouldn't they bring in Dukes?
I don't know if they trust him to throw the ball anymore. He's their short yardage running quarterback, but he showed so many inconsistencies and just a dink and dunker that if they're down, they're going to have to go with somebody that can actually throw it down the field. But yeah, it'd be interesting. This is a great spot for Arbuckle. I think it's an even better spot as a coach for Ryan Dinwiddie. I mean, against all odds here, obviously, if he can come in, put a game plan together where Arbuckle can lead them to a Grey Cup. That's a great story for both of them. I think it's more to the coaching than it is Arbuckle, because we've seen Arbuckle over and over, and he's just never been able to. It's a big moment for him. I'm not saying it's not. I just don't know if he has it in him to I guess achieve greatness in that great moment. Time will tell, but I mean, it's a hell of an ask against this defense, right? And I think that this game is going to come down to more of what Dinwiddie does with Kadeem Carey and what Toronto's defense can do.
Yeah, I just think it's such a cool storyline. You know, I remember last year in college football, Florida State had this undefeated season going, and last week of the season, or prior to the last week of the season, their starting quarterback gets out for the year, nasty injury. The backup came in the final 2 weeks, or the final week against Florida, their arch rival, looked good in that game, got the win, cap off an undefeated regular season. The only bad part is he got injured in that game. And then they go into the ACC championship with a third stringer, and they were able to win that game, but it was ugly. I'd say that was more so to the defense. And then the wheels fell off in the bowl game. Well, they had a bunch of other storylines, but I just love seeing the next man up, and you're in this position. All odds are against you. Classic, Rocky Balboa story. Let's talk about this. The total. I don't go David Goliath. I go fictional. I go, give me Rocky Balboa here. 51 is the total. Let's start there.
This is like when Matt Saracen came in for Jason Street, if we're going fictional, from Friday Night Lights.
Yes. But that's based on a book, though. That's based on that's based on a real story. I think the quarterback was Stoney Case, who played for New Mexico, the Lobos. But yes, I do appreciate what the reference. The total at 51. Call me crazy. I'm on the over. How about you?
Ooh, I'm on the under here. I think that if the Argos have a chance of winning, it's by limiting points. But either way, I think that the Argos are going to have trouble scoring points. So no matter what side you're on, I like the under. I think this rounds out at around 48.
I like this difference. More shit talk fueled for our championship episode next week, but a recap show. I think it's going to be like when I envisioned, I thought maybe like a 30-29 type of game, something like that. So you know what that means. That means
I'm picking that up.
I am on the Argos and the points. You know I love a good underdog story. SGPN is a good underdog story. All right, we started out in a goddamn garage pushing a lawn. I remember to get to my seat, I had to push a lawnmower out of the way, right? And now look at us. I'm in front of white walls and everything. Yeah, got my own company coffee here. I mean, we're still that underdog story. If anything, SGPN is not catching 9. We're catching like 75. But still, I think the line of scrimmage still matters here, even with the backup. I know you could say, well, Winnipeg will load the box. I think Arbuckle can do enough with his arm to make them respect the pass. You saw, I've argued that the Argos have some of the best receivers in the league that just haven't. They've been in taboo from the quarterback position all year, so it's hard to grow continuity when you have that going on. And then the line of scrimmage on the offensive line and the defensive line, I think the Argos can bang with any team. I said this a week or two ago. I said they're capable, or coming leading up to the playoffs. I said they're capable of beating anybody on any given day. Now, obviously, the Chad Kelly thing, it helps to have the most expensive paid player in the league. And a former MVP, but I think Arbuckle can do enough. So I'm on the points. Sprinkle a little bit on the money line. You know I love a Cinderella story. Sprinkle a little bit on that money line. J Mark, what are you doing here in Vancouver, Canada?
Well, I know people would expect me to just jump on Winnipeg here. But it wasn't just as easy as saying, yeah, Winnipeg's going to win this easy. Because I do think Dinwiddie is going to have a great game plan. I do think the Argos are going to run the shit out of the ball, and they have one of the better offensive lines. But I think it's just too much to overcome. I think there's a mental aspect of it when they see what happened to their starting quarterback that had that whole team believing. I think there's a mental aspect that immediately when that happened, they said, we're fucked. And I don't know if they can get past that. Winnipeg, this team of destiny, is here now to stop that run. If you're Winnipeg, don't you load the box and say, beat me with Arbuckle, beat me with that pass. I dare you to. And I don't think Arbuckle can do it. So as much as I was torn on this, I really was, because I think Toronto could put a good game plan together. I just think it's too much to overcome for them. I'm on Winnipeg in the 9. I agree with Drunken Irishman here. Winnipeg by 10 plus. I think, it's let's go 28-14 game, something like that.
I can't talk to this son of a bitch. I can't talk to that son of a bitch. I really can't. I can't.
Just your hatred, just because he's going to get a ring, Chad Kelly's going to get a ring. He's going to be honored.
It's not going to help.
People are feeling sorry for him. You're just upset. The line of scrimmage, Winnipeg normally wins the line of scrimmage against almost all these teams. Mm-hmm. And this is what I'll challenge you, Drunken Irishman. I think the Argos are better on the line of scrimmage than Winnipeg. Now, obviously, turnovers can happen. I could still lose. But to me, I like I'm getting 9 points and I have the better line of scrimmage. Give me that all day.
If, let's say, it doesn't start that way. Let's say by halftime, Winnipeg's up by 21. Can they win from behind needing to throw the ball? Do you think Arbuckle and Toronto have it in them?
I think if they're down 21 at halftime, I think it's done. Now if it's 10, 11, 12, 13, then you could say, yeah, maybe. But I do think the key in this game is to control the ground. That goes for both sides. To me, I do think they have a better line of scrimmage on both sides. So locking down Brady Oliveira and making Caleros beat you, and Caleros obviously not afraid of the big moment, but he definitely hasn't looked as good as years past. Sure, so forcing him to throw more is how you win that game. But bottling up the rushing attack is everything to me because it opens up Winnipeg when you don't know, more so than I think every team in the league. If you bottle up Oliveira, I think you make Winnipeg feel uncomfortable throwing that much. You know what I mean? So I think that's the game plan on the offensive side of the ball. I think they want to establish the run. I think when Winnipeg knows that, because that's how you neutralize a backup. You know that you want to make your backup quarterback feel comfortable.
Yeah,
and the more he can do play action, the more comfortable he can get with open targets. And you also want to control the clock, limit possessions for Winnipeg. That's obvious. I don't feel like I'm, saying anything shocking, but
yeah, football 101, right?
Yeah. But I do think if you're Dinwiddie, who does strike me as an aggressive offensive mind, you know what I mean? I remember when he played quarterback at Boise under Dan Hawkins, but I think you come out first drive. I think that you come out throwing the hell out of the ball. I think you want to put pressure on Winnipeg, assuming like if Toronto gets the ball first. I think you don't want to have all passes, but I think you open it up. I think you take your shots, see if you can go up 7-0 and put the pressure on Winnipeg. That would be, to me, what I would try to do. Is like, they are going to expect you to be conservative. I would open it up right away, take a shot, left and right, trick play, whatever, right from the start. It's going to be great to watch. Shout out to the chat. I see if Arbuckle wins the Grey Cup, that would be a travesty.
Yeah, we got lots of great stuff in there. Geevers Golf, J Mark, sorry about Chad Kelly. Rod saying can't see the Bombers lose 3 straight.
That's
Drunken
a good
Irishman.
point. I mean, that Rod's the irony is you got Chad Kelly related to Jim Kelly. And they lost 4 straight Super Bowls. So the Bombers would then lose 3 straight, but still 9 points. Both can still hit where the Bombers win the cup. You get the 9 points cashing for you because Arbuckle plays good. And Dinwiddie, that's another thing. I think Dinwiddie's probably going to recognize that he's kind of playing with house money. I don't think Argo fans or ownership is disappointed by this season, knowing that you don't have your highest paid, the former MVP and your highest paid player in the league. I think they're just, you might have less pressure. I think more pressure is actually on Winnipeg. So,
well, to your point, they didn't have him for 9 games and they still made the Grey Cup. So to your point, Drunken Irishman's going to be wearing his Claros jersey, shotgun and Molson's. I agree with you on the line of scrimmage stuff. My point or my side on that is, okay, Argos can stop Brady Oliveira, but their defensive backfield is not good. And so that's when you're going to have guys like Kenny Lawler, who just had a huge day, Nick Dembski. You're going to have those guys go off. I think Winnipeg is is able to shift gears a lot easier than Toronto is. So if the run is bottled up for both teams, I don't know if Toronto with Nick Arbuckle can shift gears to win with the pass. I absolutely believe Winnipeg can.
And that's a fair point. I think that is a very accurate, statement there of like their pass defense has been shit. But I'll just go back to this. Caleros, in my opinion, has not been as sharp this season, even with his best games. There's been games where you're sitting there saying, I don't know. I mean, he had, I think it was against Hamilton, whose defense wasn't very good back in August. He had a 3 interception game with 1 touchdown. That to me is what I think. He's been a little bit more inaccurate, I feel like, than previous years. And that some of that might be his age, 17 touchdowns, 15 picks on the season.
Yeah, they're going to need him. I think it's absolutely his age. I brought up the point early in the season that his throwing motion even looks different. And so I think he's having to work harder to make the same throws. So I agree with that. But I mean, it's Winnipeg. It's that winning DNA, right?
Yeah. Yeah. That's why you take the 9 though. Folks, I want to tell you, the CFL Gambling Podcast is brought to you by Underdog Fantasy. Underdog Fantasy, Underdog Pick'em is one of the biggest menus for all the sports, including the great CFL here. NFL, college football, college basketball, MMA, NASCAR, NBA, NHL, all that good stuff. Check it all out. You can now use specials and boost on all flexed entries as well. So sign up, and when you do, sign up with the promo code TCESGPN to claim your special pick plus first time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Once again, UnderdogFantasy.com promo code TCESGPN. We're also brought to you by Rhythm. SGPN's proud partner, Rhythm, is the #1 AI-powered sports betting platform that helps provide bettors of all levels the ability to build custom predictive betting models in seconds and get predictions for betting on money lines, spreads, totals, props. You can copy one of the top performing models from the leaderboard, or you could build your own model. That's what I do, and then have Rhythm adjust around that. And now you can track props in the Rhythm app as well. So what are you doing? Hop on over there. Claim your free 7-day trial period today by going to sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's sportsgamblingpodcast.com/rhythm. That's RITHMM. All right. We are back on the CFL Gambling Podcast. And I just got the first touchdown of the game prop. It's the Grey Cup. And feel free to any of these props. I'm open game with us talking about here. But I'm hoping Toronto wins the toss, gets the ball first, because that's what I'm saying. I think Dinwiddie will be aggressive. Obviously, Winnipeg's defense has been great the second half part of the season. But and maybe there's value on taking Winnipeg pick 6 or something. But looking out there and seeing the prop market right now, is there anything that just jumps out to you? I mean,
yeah, I mean, for first touchdowns, if we're talking on that,
yes,
Kenny Lawler 7-1. He had a huge game last week, and I think it just rolls over. I think their confidence is so sky high right now. The rhythm they have together is so sky high that I could see them just come out firing again, and Caleros really targeting him. So I like him 7-1 to get that first score.
Yeah, I mean that's 3 touchdowns I think last week. So it makes a lot of sense. I'll take a shot on, like, to me, I think it's key the Argos go up early.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to take a shot on one of their wideouts. I know, it seems chalky with Kadeem Carey. Coxie, perhaps he's been my guy all year, but how about Tavares Daniels plus 1,800? I mean, the problem is they have so many different wideouts.
They do, and Makai Polk has been kind of the hot hand recently.
Yeah,
but
that was with Chad Kelly, though.
Yeah, and that makes you think Winnipeg is going to really focus on him too.
Well, I tend to think about this. Second team reps in practice for the past, however weeks with Chad Kelly. Forget what the exact number. So who was getting those reps? Polk. It could have been Coxie that was getting the second team reps. I want to say it might have been Polk and Daniels getting the first team reps with Kelly. So you're looking for continuity, and that's why maybe Coxie makes sense here. Let me sprinkle plus 1,700 on DeMonte Coxie getting the first touchdown of the game. It's also plus 190 anytime score. Any other ones jump out to you? I mean, the Winnipeg defense angle is pretty fun too.
I kind of like Ontario Wilson too, because I like Lawler riding that hot hand, but because he just scored 3 touchdowns, that's obviously who Toronto's going to really focus on. We got to limit this guy. And Ontario Wilson, I mean, he's had a hell of a season. Young guy came in and really kind of popped up out of nowhere for them. And so I could see him maybe sneaking in there, gets behind the defense and scores the first touchdown.
Yeah.
I'm not falling off this angle that Winnipeg scores first, as you can see.
Let me ask you this, though. Nick Arbuckle over 263.5 passing yards or under. And I'll throw this one out there too for you. Zach Collaros, 270.5 passing yards, threw for over 300 last week.
I mean, I think it's safe to try to take the over on both of those, right? Because we just talked about it. The game plan for each defense should be stop the run. The Winnipeg Blue Bombers should force Nick Arbuckle to throw the ball. And the same with Toronto. I mean, they should stop Brady Oliveira. They should stop that clock from ticking like it does when he runs the ball and making the plays that he does. So I kind of like the angle of taking them both over. I also have a huge tits parlay for you. I threw together if you want that as well.
There we go. Hang on. Now I've been waiting for this. J-Mark, loaded up a Pam Anderson huge tits parlay. Afraid to give out a huge tits parlay. Some people need to help somebody cash on some huge tits parlays. What is your huge tits parlay? I'm curious.
Okay, so we're going to start with Kadeem Carey over 69.5 rushing yards. I think despite the fact that Winnipeg's going to throw in everything to stop him, I think this is how Toronto stays in the game, by controlling the ball on the ground. Kadeem Carey, very good running back, but behind an even better offensive line, right? So I like him to go over that 69.5 rushing yards. I'm obviously big on Winnipeg, so anytime touchdown, Brady Oliveira and Kenny Lawler, I think they continue that momentum. So both of them to get an anytime touchdown. And then I, just to be safe, I tease that Winnipeg line and alt line down to 6.5 points. So winning it by a touchdown, essentially. Throw all those together, it's 9-1.
And may the Schwartz be with you. What a world, what a world.
I like that. I love the Kadeem Carey over 66.5 rushing yards. I think their line of scrimmage is better than Winnipeg's. I think even with my approach of them being aggressive and passing the first possession or two, I think Kadeem Carey, not Gary, is going to get his. And that's why I would load up on that. And how about, here's my huge tits parlay for you. You take that. Yeah, you take, I am going to take Nick Arbuckle over 1.5 passing touchdowns at plus 110. I'm on the over. It makes a lot of sense there. And then the receiving angle. I am going to take the under 75.5 passing yard or reception yards from Makai Polk because Chad Kelly's not there. So that is my angle right there. Jump on those three and buy yourself some huge tits. All right. Let's go. Folks, DFS front. And shame on DK for not giving us anything really substantial on the DFS front. Maybe it'll come out in a couple days, but I had to join. Just like I battled someone. That's the only way I could find a way to do this. How about you?
Yeah, the options are very limited. I entered one of the lower contests and to wait because then I'll use the same lineup if they open any others. But we've seen it all year towards the end of this year dwindle down, and it's been kind of disappointing. But I don't know if that's not enough people playing. So if you're in the chat, throw a couple bucks down, play some CFL DFS.
Let's go. I mean, so it's not a normal situation. I have a 5-man roster on this battle.
Yeah. Yep. That's how it is with just one game. You got 5 utility people, and with CFL, you don't even get the, like in the NFL, you'll
captain.
Have the top captain spot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I went with a pretty chalky lineup. I feel like because I still have $6,300, but I did go with Zach Collaros at 9K. I'm on the over. I actually took both quarterbacks, Arbuckle and Collaros. Did you?
I have Collaros. I do not have Arbuckle. He's getting replaced at halftime by Brian Scott.
Oh, there it is. Who's your second highest price guy?
So my highest price guy is actually Brady Oliveira.
I have him as well.
Yeah, even if they shut down the run, he catches balls out of the backfield as well. So I think he's going to have an impact either way.
I agree. Shout out to Michael Huffer. He's asking. This is on CBS Sports Network, Michael. Yep. So let's go. Sunday, 6:00 Eastern, I believe. Yeah, I have Oliveira too. So now I only have 2 guys left, and I went with Damonte Coxey because it's my DFS guy.
Yeah.
It's not a lineup. It's not a lineup if you don't have DeMonte Coxey. Did you roster Coxey?
I did not. I have one Toronto player, and that's Kadeem Carey. And it's because I think if they have a chance at winning this, he has to have a big game.
Interesting. I didn't even roster him. Actually, you know what? I should roster him. I'm going to get rid of Ontario Wilson because that just makes too much sense. He's going to need to have a big day for them to even be in the game. So I just replaced him with Kadeem Carey. I'm out of guys. Give me your final guy.
I have two more left for you. I have Kenny Lawler, just riding that hot hand from last week. Maybe I'm chasing the points a little bit, but I if they could get it done last week, they can do it against this Argos. And then I got the Blue Bombers defense because I expect some turnovers. I expect Arbuckle to come out a little cold. And yeah, I think the Bombers could make a big difference in this game, their defense.
All right, folks. Just want to give out this too. Toronto Argonauts first score of the game plus 140. Plus 140.
First score doesn't have to be first touchdown. That could be a fucking rouge.
That's what I'm saying. First score of the game. Argos plus 140. Let's go, folks. Cannot wait for the Grey Cup. Make sure you please, if you can, go over to Spotify, CFL Gambling Podcast, 5 stars. That really helps us. And I just can't wait to watch this game. It's finally here.
How do you feel about the time and date? I was going to ask you that because obviously, I mean, it's hard to do it on Saturday because you're competing with college football. I like that the game is at like 5 Central on Sunday because there's those later games in the NFL going, but most of them are nearing the end anyways. So for the football fans that watch all the leagues, do you like that 5 o'clock start time? Would you rather them have it on a different time or day?
I don't watch the NFL much anymore these days, but I understand that if I was in charge of the CFL, I probably would try to go. I mean, I think they probably chose the best time for Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
But I gotta be honest. I think I might have done a Monday night.
Yeah,
I think I might have done a Monday night there, but I don't know. I'd have to look into numbers. Maybe Sunday night probably gets more people watching TV than Monday night. So maybe that's the logic. Saturday I would not do, mainly not because I love college football, but I mean some of that. But I just feel like Saturday night's more of a let's go out and get drunk night.
Sure.
Whereas like Sunday's kind of like, oh, I got work tomorrow on Monday. So I tend to think Sunday or Monday would make the most sense. But I think they did all right. I think they chose a good time window. I've never understood the NFL's lack of I don't understand the NFL scheduling, but I mean, they're all rich as hell. So clearly I'm the moron here, but like the 4 o'clock window, they always give you like 3 games and it's like, what the fuck, man? Why couldn't you just play some of these other ones later?
Yeah.
You know, like I never understood that. But so I think that's kind of a smart angle because I mean, I can't tell you how many times I was watching NFL and watching the late slate, not the primetime 8 o'clock game. Mm-hmm. Talking about the late slate, the afternoon slate, where all 3 games were trash. You know what I mean? Like you're trying to convince yourself that this Chargers, Chiefs games are going to be interesting. And it's just like all 3 games are just blowouts, so
yeah. It's unfortunate they're going against a game like Kansas City Buffalo because I know a lot of NFL fans are going to want to tune into that. You also got 49ers, Seattle, and Denver and Atlanta for your late games. But, Atlanta, Denver, Seattle, San Francisco, that's 3:05. Kansas City, Buffalo's at 3:25. So starting at 5 o'clock, I think if those games are out of hand or it's just not what people thought they were, it gives a great opportunity to switch on over.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll be watching Nick Fortune in there. Excuse me, Colby. The 49ers are not trashy team. Well, they moved out of Candlestick. At least they didn't go to a dome, but what the hell are you doing playing way out there, wherever the fuck it is? I forget. I've been there, but come on. You got to get back in the city where have some soul. You're not even the San Francisco 49ers. You're like the San Mateo or some shit. What's that town they're playing in? Santa Clara? I think it is.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Come on. Hate that. Hate how all the NFL franchises went way outside of the cities. Just garbage. Play in the city. That's where it's supposed to be. The people are like, I grew up a Redskins fan and a Jets fan. They moved to FedEx. It's a way out. It's like a 10-hour experience because you get on the Beltway. It's horrible. Then the Jets did the same thing with the Meadowlands. Like Shea was way better than the Meadowlands. I could do a seminar, folks, but I'm not gonna because it's the CFL Gambling Podcast. Give J Mark a follow on Twitter at JMarkFootball. Check out the UFL Gambling Podcast and the Old Fashioned Football Podcast. Get some drinks, talk some football. See him and his wife get into arguments. What's not to like? All right. I'm on Twitter at TheColbyD. Check out the college football experience, the college basketball experience, the college baseball experience. Also the Sports Gambling Podcast, the Bottom Line Bombs with my pal CJ Sullivan. Check out all of that stuff. And Grievers Golf loves the huge tits parlay. We've been doing that for a while. We had graphics for 90% of the season. That will be back come next year. You better believe it. And don't worry, we're not choosing Pam Anderson because she's relevant. It's because she was discovered at a BC Lions football game. I can't tell you how many people I have to explain that to. You know, they're like, why didn't you choose someone else a little younger with huge tits? And I go, well, you know, they weren't. If you find me one that's discovered by the CFL, if you're telling me, you know, that was the logic there. Anyway, folks, can't wait. Grey Cup. Sprinkle that money line on these Argos. Let's go. This is the CFL Gambling Podcast. You better start thinking about yours. And we out of here.
I lost a bet on the Super Bowl. So I had to dive in and crawl around through the snow. Don't believe me? Believe me, there's a video. We made it to promote March 5th and then we did the show. Before March, there was a winter to be lived through. And snow fell on the DC metropolis. In some other cities, this wouldn't be big news. But where I live, it felt like an apocalypse. Not the kind where zombies are the wrath of God. But the kind where Mother Nature doesn't laugh it off. I didn't laugh at all. I saw the sky smoking the blunt now, waiting for the ash to fall. Traffic stalled for a few weeks. Capitol Hill of snow taking up a parking space. A couple notches on the beltway ain't unique, but higher in freezes get more than your heart to race. I mean, the rats were frostbitten, they lost it, risking their lives just to make it to the office. Exhausting, caustic, cold front rose up through the mid-Atlantic and did its damage. Detective Bailey didn't expect a camera and brought a gun to a snowball fight. I know my rights in the seasonal mood swing. Some of us winning, some of us losing. That broken clock's been blinking since winter. I hope it's not telling me I was born to lose. I lost my temper, but I found my center. Winning winter, so I can stay warm with you. That broken clock's been blinking since winter. I hope it's not telling me I was born to lose. I lost my temper, but I found my center. Winning winter, so I can stay warm with you. So I can